Hi everybody, welcome to Barefruit Nursery. We are a Florida native local to Melbourne, Florida plant nursery. We offer an online seed shop where we have online free resources on tips and tricks for gardening, how to plant with your grow zones, a lot and tons of information that would help you start a successful gardening relationship. So on our online seed shop, we offer tons of varieties of seeds, honey that is from our local bees, and some seasonings and hot sauces. So you will be switching the seasonings and hot sauces out and have kind of a mix based on the seasons. So as we get different inventory and different plants and herbs growing at different times, we are going to tailor that to our online seasonings and hot sauces. Hey, good afternoon, class. I have had a very productive week from getting my surveys out to a bunch of different people to studying more about like my finance and operations timeline, and then the best location, different topics that I'm going to dive into this week. But I wanted to thank everyone for their comments last week. They were very helpful when trying to plan for this week's video. So first thing I wanted to talk about was my survey responses and the pools I got. So the first survey I did, which I talked about, I believe 2 weeks ago, was the survey responses from the people that I work with. So all those were great responses, but I wanted to go out of my comfort zone this week and ask people that I don't normally or wouldn't normally connect with, right? So I did a couple things. One, I created a Google Forms. I'm not sure if any of you know what those are, but I posted a QR code. So you can either post a QR code or send out a link. So the first thing I did was post a QR code, and it was just like, I posted it on social media saying if you could fill out this form, give me a general idea for my class, that would be great. I ended up getting like 58 responses, which was really awesome because like my grandparents shared it on their social media, so that was very cool. So I got a wide variety of age ranges and a bunch of different occupations. And then I went to Home Depot, but the time that I went, I only was able to talk to like 3 people. One of them wasn't interested, and 2 of them filled out the responses for me. So just kind of to give you a brief overview instead of going through all of it, since I know we only have 8 minutes to get everything done this week. But one of the first questions was, would you be interested in a Florida native nursery? 92% said yes. The others were either out of state or they said they didn't like plants, so which is totally fine. Totally get that it might not be everybody's thing. And then my next question was, how much would a reasonable price be for a plant in your opinion? So these answers varied because, of course, there's different plants. Like house plants are a little more pricey depending on what house plant you get, or like fruit trees depending on the size. But everyone seemed to agree that between $30 and $50 for fruit trees, like a smaller size, would be reasonable, which I thought was really interesting because my price range, I was thinking $40 for the 3-gallon. For the 5-gallon, I was thinking around the 50 to 60 range depending on the tree. And then, above, so like 7-gallon, I was thinking closer to 80. And then like 15-gallon, which is obviously huge. It takes a long time for it to get that maturity. Either 150 or 125. So one of my next questions was, how often do you buy a plant? Because I wanted to gauge, like, yes, I've gotten all these people that said they'd be interested, but how often do people actually go out and get a new plant? So I had people answer from once every week to every other year so it's a huge expansion there. So that made me a little worried, depending on, if you have the space, right? Because if you have like a huge yard, you can go out and afford to buy a bunch of different trees at different times and have the place to put them. But like if you have a smaller yard like in the back of my yard. So I also wanted to chat about the location. So obviously in my other videos, I talked about where I want the nursery to be. So as I talked before in an earlier video, my finance and operations timeline doesn't really have a start date right now. Because I'm working full-time. I have a 1-year-old, and I'm obviously a student full-time as well. I don't really have the time right now to start a business. So this is just me brainstorming and getting a plan down for the right moment, I guess. I know there's never going to be a right moment per se to start a business, but right now I'm just pretty spread thin, so I don't think it would be the smartest choice to try to start a business right now. So essentially that's kind of my little tidbit there. I didn't change anything about my value proposition this week, or my customers or users. Pretty firm on what I set as a base a couple weeks ago. And you know, to talk about like the access to resources. In the location that I'm in right now, I have tons of resources at my fingertips that I would be able to use, since there's not a lot of business in this area around that certain aspect of like a local plant nursery. I feel like that would be quite successful. In addition, the online seed shop would offer education, which is super, super helpful. I always enjoy helping small businesses that do provide education in addition to their services. So I think that would be pretty helpful there. So as of the cash flows business, so obviously I was talking about buying in bulk, but of course there's a lot of risk that comes to that, right? So of course, plant disease, there's a lot of diseases, so there's mealybugs, so you'd have to spray your plants with neem oil to get rid of those. But the problem is, if one of your plants gets it, then it can easily be spreaded. So that's one of the concerns I have when buying in bulk. And the job that I currently have, we talk about importance to cash flows, right? And like the risks. So we go on a risk work authorization when we want to do something but don't have the funds or aren't funded immediately. So the business goes out on a risk to support this in hopes, right, that we get funded for it. So just to compare that to what I'm doing with the nursery, I would go out on risk to buy bulk plants and hope that people would purchase them. So, I mean, like anything, businesses will have risk behind it. So that would just be something to kind of meander with and figure out like the happy medium in between buying too much and not buying enough. So overall, I feel like this is going to be a very successful business idea. However, it just comes down to the time I have, the ability to get everything organized, right? So I would need to level out the parking lot, have it as dirt. I need to think about it if I wanted to put rock in there. Would need to set up the one piece of property as an LLC. So I talked to a financial advisor. I used to work at a tax firm. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I know you work with LLCs. Would you be able to walk me through like the potential process that I would have to do to create one? So he walked me through that and gave me some extremely helpful advice on how I would need to set it up so I could write my taxes off and would not have to pay additional tax on the property. So and that's coming from me not owning it. So that's something my partner or my parents would do so that they could potentially get a tax break. I think I have hit my limit for today, but I really wanted to thank everyone for your comments, tips, that kind of thing. And I look forward to watching everybody's videos.